That day, sitting at the computer, I was in terrible agony. My intestines were bursting with pain. It was good that I was wearing a diaper. I wanted to lie down, but I had to finish my work. My husband has been trying to persuade me to quit for a long time, but I'm the only one in the family who gets a decent salary. I want to earn as much as possible because I know that I'm going to die soon, and I don't want my husband and daughter to starve after my death. Don't think about it. My husband also works for me, even in a decent enough place, but the salary in our town is quite a penny. A few years ago, my husband gave a huge portion of his already small salary to my education. It was difficult. He gave everything and never spared anything for me. It was only thanks to his support that I learned and became a successful programmer. And now I will do everything to provide them with a comfortable life after their death. After completing the customer's next assignment, I got up from my chair. The pain increased. The doctor prescribed daily walks for me so that my intestines could empty. Otherwise, there would be insane pains. Yes, cancer is like that. It doesn't care that you just want to lie down without pain. I went outside and headed to the park. There were practically no people along the way, and the park itself was quiet. Recently, it became more difficult for me to breathe. Most likely the metastases have already reached my lungs. When the intestines emptied a little, the pain subsided a little. It was possible to go home for a well-deserved rest. I was drooling as I walked through the various shops. I really wanted to taste cakes, chocolate, and most of all greasy burgers with fries, and sauce. But unfortunately, all this is forbidden to me. The doctor allowed only soups, porridges, and light cottage cheese. Suddenly, one store caught my attention. It had the inscription, "You can buy anything from us. Love, life, time." It's a very presumptuous sign, I thought, as I walked into the store. The salesman immediately greeted me cordially, and I also greeted him. I was very surprised by his height. He was a real dwarf. After looking around the store a bit, I realized that they sell second-hand items, such as second-hand, but not only clothes, but everything in a row. I even felt a little sad. How else do I want to live that I even give in to such ridiculous inscriptions? The salesman interrupted my thoughts. "Have you chosen something for yourself?" I don't know why, but this harmless question made me angry. I lost my temper a little. You know, it's not nice to make such deceptive signs. Our signage does not deceive. On what basis did you draw such a conclusion? But we are adults, and we understand that time is beyond our control. And yet, how controlled? The man replied. Well then, sell me the time, please. No problem, but first tell me what you need it for. To be honest, after these words, I wanted to leave, but I was wondering what this man would say next, so I told him about my cancer. He listened very attentively to my story. You know, the man said, I can give you 10 years, maybe a little more, but it will depend on certain circumstances. And what do you want in return? Probably my immortal soul, I jokingly asked this crazy man. No, I'm only interested in money, he replied. Well, that's right. Some kind of divorce probably thinks that I'm stupid. Now I'm going to give him a large sum of money. I may be a desperate sick person, but I'm not stupid. I hate people who try to cash in on desperate people. These are the easiest to breed for money. But I restrained myself again and asked how much it would cost. I wonder what amount this scoundrel will name. Do you wish someone dead? His question put me in a bit of a stupor. There was probably one person who made me very angry. This is my first boyfriend I dated at school. Looking at the seller, I told him that my enemy's name was Myron. The salesman looked at me with a smile. First love It's like that. It's one step from love to hate. And how do you know? Never mind. I just assumed. So, what did this man do to annoy you? I didn't really want to reveal my innermost grievances to a stranger, and even more so to a charlatan. But it was interesting to know the amount he would ask me for. I'll be gone soon anyway. I have nothing to hide any more. And I began my story. You know, I was not the most popular girl in the class, and I was often bullied. One day, the most handsome and charismatic boy in the class stood up for me. After that, we developed a strong liking for each other. For several school years, I did his homework for him and let him copy from tests, and he defended me. Many girls envied me, and I will not hide it. I was pleased. In the 10th grade, he constantly told me that he loved me and would never betray me, and I reciprocated his feelings. In the 11th grade, a new girl was transferred to us. She was incredibly beautiful and even studied better than me. She quickly won me over, and the three of us became friends. Towards the end of the 11th grade, they confronted me with the fact, said that they fell in love and could not live without each other. I can't even describe the pain I felt at that moment. I really hoped that they would break up quickly, but no, they were constantly posting their happy photos, which finished me off even more. And a couple of years later, they had a beautiful child. After a while, I started dating a guy, my future husband, and I even began to forget about the traitors. And then suddenly, Myron had the nerve to call me, and with a request. He wanted me to help him make a website. I was simply amazed by his impudence, but I agreed. Not just like that, of course, but pursuing my own selfish goals. They wanted to buy some ridiculous figurines with all their money. I knew that this was a failed idea and they would go broke. Then we'll see how much they love each other. But everything turned out differently. They quickly sold out. They even opened their own store and now drive an expensive Mercedes. They are so grateful to me that we became friends with their families. This makes me feel even worse. On the one hand, I want to tell them off, but on the other, I like to show that I don't care that they are alone. Let me interrupt you. And now it turns out that thanks to you, they live even better. And they probably often come to visit you with all sorts of tasty treats, and you are left to sit in a diaper and lick your lips. Yes, you understood everything correctly. Okay, let's make a deal. You will give me 35% of your salary, and I will give you the promised time. I understand that you may have doubts, but I assure you today you will stop feeling pain. Just drink this bottle. He stood on a stepladder and reached for the top shelf. Yes, it smells disgusting, but today you will be able to eat whatever you want. He handed me some kind of elixir. My stomach hurt again, almost to the point of tears. I decided to drink this bottle right there. It definitely couldn't get any worse. After taking a sip, I almost threw up, but the pain immediately went away. Be sure to drink it to the end, otherwise the pain will come back. I pinched my nose with my fingers and drank it all to the bottom. Come to my store tomorrow, and I'll prepare the contract in the meantime. I was curious about the documents he would prepare, so I agreed. When I went outside, I realized how great it was to not feel pain. I don't know what this charlatan gave me, but for the first time in a long time, I have no pain. Passing another stall, I decided to take a chance and bought myself a hot dog. After biting off a piece, I was completely delighted. How delicious it was! How amazing it was! When I finished it, I was overcome with horror. I lost my temper again. What kind of pain will I have tomorrow because of this? What a fool I am! Okay, I need to calm down. Maybe it will pass. When I got home in the evening, I immediately went to bed before the pain had time to return. When I woke up, I stretched. My husband had already left for work. Surprisingly, the pain never returned. That same day, I went to the doctor. After undergoing an examination, the doctors did not believe my results. My stage 4 cancer was almost gone. I asked how this was possible. The doctor said that they had never seen anything like this before. I was so happy that I ran to my favorite restaurant and ordered almost the entire menu. Everything was so delicious. I ate so much that I felt sick, but not from cancer, but from gluttony. It was already 8 p.m., and then it dawned on me that I might be late for that mysterious store. I had to run. I clearly remembered that it was open until 9. I only managed to get there by 9:20. I was incredibly scared that the cancer would return at any moment and I would be racked with pain, which I definitely wouldn't be able to stand after such a volume of food. But surprisingly, the light was still on in the store window, even though there was a closed sign on the door. I started knocking. There was a click and the door opened as if by magic. "Can I come in?" The salesman coughed demonstratively. I lowered my head and saw him. God, how awkward. I forgot that he was a dwarf. I apologized. "Don't worry, I knew you would come." "Well, are you ready to read the contract?" I nodded. There were only 2 points. The first was to give 35% of each salary. The second is to invite Myron, his wife, and their child to visit and mix in the elixir. What kind of elixir is this? Is it dangerous? Don't be offended, of course, but that's none of your business. Without thinking twice, I signed the contract. What happens if I break it? It's better for you not to know. Oh, I forgot to say, the elixir spoils quickly, so try to mix it in with your friends as soon as possible. I said, okay, and went home. I felt great, as did my mood. On the way home, I bought a lot of goodies. My daughter and husband were surprised. I hadn't bought such food for a long time. We sat down at the table, and I greedily began to gobble up everything that was on the table. My husband and daughter stared at me as if I was crazy. They tried to stop me, and I looked at them happily and said that I had recovered. Then I showed them the doctor's report. We all began to jump for joy. The next day, I called Myron and invited their family to dinner. He happily agreed. In the evening, when they arrived, just the sight of them made me sick. They gave me a large bouquet, and I invited them to the table. When we sat down, I mixed an unknown elixir into Myron, his wife, and their son. The whole evening, he and his wife thanked me for my help. They said that if I hadn't made a website for them, they would be living in poverty now. And now they can afford anything they want. How tired they were of rubbing salt into my wound. When they finally left, I exhaled. A year later, as if by magic, my income had grown dramatically. And for Myron's family, on the contrary, everything went wrong. This brought me pleasure. After 9 years, I no longer worried that after my death, one of my loved ones would go hungry. One day, Myron called me. He was sobbing. He told me that their son had been hit by a car. At that moment, I felt a little sorry for him. But they deserve it, the vile traitors. Of course, I didn't tell him this. I just pretended to cry, too. After the funeral of their son, I decided that now they deserve forgiveness, and it's time for me to stop transferring money to this seller. If he wants, let him take me. Moreover, I no longer worry about the financial situation of my family. Let this evil be on me. I probably also deserve punishment for the elixir I mixed in. I didn't transfer money for a month. Surprisingly, cancer did not return. One day the phone rang. "I'm very sorry, but your husband was killed today. Please come to identify him." I quickly got ready. Opening the front door, I saw a letter. I started reading. I warned you not to violate the agreement. I'm waiting for payment today, and now you will send 50%. Otherwise, your daughter will die next, and believe me, her death will be much worse. I decided to kill this shorty and ran to his shop. When I got there, I saw that it was closed and there was a letter on the door. It said, "I advise you to send the money as soon as possible." I couldn't risk my daughter, so I followed the instructions. After burying my husband, our life with our daughter became very sad. At that moment, Myron and his wife supported me a lot, despite their terrible loss. I hated myself, but inside I consoled myself that they deserved what happened to their son. A couple of years later, Myron's wife died under strange circumstances. He fell into a terrible depression. I knew for sure that when Myron died, cancer would definitely come back to me. But I think I still have a couple of years. The main thing is that my daughter has time to grow up to adulthood. Otherwise, she will be taken to an orphanage. And I was afraid that, in that case, she would not get our inheritance. So I promised myself to live a couple more years at any cost. The other day, Myron called me. He said that he did not want to live, that he called to say goodbye and thank me for all the good things. I was scared and began to beg him not to do something stupid, and he said that nothing made him happy anymore and every day was hell for him. He started saying goodbye again, and I stopped him. "Myron, stop! Don't do this! I'm going to die soon. I have cancer. I beg you. Keep an eye on my daughter." He started to sob. "I beg you, Myron. Believe me, you are still dear to me and I love you. Move in with us." It was not true, but I had to stop him. "Help me, Myron. I beg you. I have always helped you." He agreed and came that same day. During this time, we fell in love with each other very much, but something terrible happened. Myron fell ill and died a very painful death. I realized that I was next. When he died, fortunately, my daughter turned 18. The disease came back to me. Finally, I decided to leave my daughter a letter in which I told the whole truth. The main thing is that she never makes such mistakes. Subscribe to our channel so you don't miss new episodes. Share your stories and impressions in the comments.